You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That one quote from Marcus Aurelius contains a truth so profound it could change your life if you truly understand it. Because strength isn't something you can always see. It's not measured by the weight you lift, the image you present, or how loud you speak. Real strength is invisible. It doesn't announce itself. It's revealed in the moments when life tests you and you choose not to break. Strength shows up when you're exhausted, but you still move forward. When the world misunderstands you, yet you don't let bitterness harden your heart. When your plans fall apart, but your character holds firm. Sometimes you might feel like you're barely holding it together, just surviving, going through the motions, hoping for a break. But here's what you might not realize. Those quiet, unseen moments. That's where your power lives. Every time you choose not to give up, you're already proving how strong you really are. This strength doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It doesn't come from hiding your pain. It comes from persistence, from resilience, from a quiet determination that refuses to let life defeat you. That kind of power, it's not loud, it doesn't ask for attention, but it is unshakable. And in a world obsessed with surface-level success, it's the most valuable thing you can build. In today's video, we're going to uncover 7 powerful signs of inner strength, all rooted in the ancient wisdom of Stoic philosophy. These aren't flashy personality traits or motivational quotes you'll forget by tomorrow. They are timeless principles, deep, steady, and transformational. They'll help you understand what real strength looks like, and more importantly, how to live it. And here's the best part. You don't need to be a philosopher or a monk to apply these ideas. Whether you're going through a rough season, trying to gain control over your emotions, or just looking for clarity in a noisy world, these Stoic lessons will give you something that lasts. Inner peace, balance, and a mindset that can weather any storm. So if this speaks to you, if you're ready to tap into your deeper power, share this video with someone who might need it too. A friend, a loved one, even a coworker silently struggling. Because the strongest people aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they're the ones quietly carrying the heaviest load. Are you ready to uncover the strength that's already inside you? Then let's begin with the first lesson. 1. Emotional control. Imagine this, you've spent weeks preparing for a big moment. Maybe it's a project you care about, a relationship you're trying to fix, or even a personal goal you've been chasing quietly for months. Everything seems to be lining up. And then, without warning, something goes wrong. The results don't match your effort. Someone criticizes you unfairly. A situation slips out of your control. What do? Most people react. Anger bubbles up, frustration takes over. They might lash out, shut down, or spiral into overthinking. And you know what? That reaction is natural, it's human. But it's also where most of us give away our power. Because in those heated moments we forget the one thing the Stoics held sacred, our ability to choose our response. Let me tell you about someone I used to work with, someone who redefined strength for me. He wasn't the loudest in the room. He wasn't always the most confident either, but he had a rare calm. I once watched him lead a team through a crisis that would have broken most people. Deadlines collapsed, blame started flying, panic was in the air, but he stayed grounded. Not because he wasn't stressed, but because he understood that panic solves nothing. He asked the right questions, he listened. And then, step by step, he guided the team through it. That's emotional control. That's power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That idea, that you can change the way you experience life simply by how you respond, is transformative. So what is emotional control really? It's not about becoming emotionless. It's not about pretending nothing bothers you. It's about being aware of what you feel and choosing how you deal with it. Anger, sadness, anxiety, they're all valid, but you are not a puppet of those emotions. You are the master of them, and the stronger your control, the less life can shake you. Ask yourself, how many times have you said something in anger you wished you could take back? How many decisions made in the heat of the moment only made things worse? The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you want freedom, emotional freedom, you need to become the one steering the ship, not the storm. So how do we practice emotional control? Start with the pause. That moment between stimulus and response, It's where your power lives. When frustration rises, breathe. Before you react, give yourself a moment to think. This doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. That breath can be the difference between saying something destructive or saying something healing, between acting out of pain or acting with purpose. Then ask yourself the Stoics' golden question. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. Don't waste energy fighting what you cannot change. If the answer is yes, then focus your attention there. Channel your energy not into the chaos, but into calm, thoughtful action. Reflection is another powerful tool. At the end of your day, take just a few minutes to sit with your emotions. What triggered you? Where did you handle things well? Where could you have responded differently? These small acts of awareness build strength over time, like sharpening a blade. They prepare you for the next storm so you don't get swept away. And finally, perspective. When life throws a challenge at you, ask yourself, will this still matter a year from now? Most of the time, the answer is no. What feels massive in the moment often shrinks in hindsight. When you zoom out, you gain emotional clarity. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. Emotional control is a quiet kind of strength. It doesn't make headlines, but it transforms lives. It gives you the ability to remain steady in uncertainty, to lead others when everyone else is panicking, and to choose peace in a world that thrives on chaos. And the best part? This is something you can build, day by day, thought by thought, response by response. When you master your emotions, you reclaim your power. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. True strength doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you feel deeply and still choose your response with wisdom, and that's something no one can take from you. 2. Taking responsibility. One of the clearest signs of true strength is something the modern world often overlooks: the courage to take full responsibility for your actions, your words, and your life, not just when things go well, but especially when they don't. Imagine this. You make a promise to someone, a friend, a colleague, maybe even yourself, something small. You'll finish a task, return a call, follow through. But the days get hectic. Time slips away. You miss the deadline, forget the commitment. What do? For many, the instinct is to justify, to say, I was too busy, or I had too much going on. But Stoic strength doesn't live in excuses. It lives in ownership. Taking responsibility means standing in the mirror and saying, I fell short. That was on me, and I'm going to make it right. That's hard. It stings. But it's also what separates the strong from the passive. Seneca once said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. In other words, every mistake holds the seed of a new chapter, if you have the strength to own it. I once worked alongside someone who embodied this truth. She led a major project, something that impacted a lot of people. And when a critical error happened, it would have been easy to shift blame, but she didn't. She called the team together, admitted her oversight without defensiveness, and offered a clear, focused plan to fix it. And here's what happened. Rather than losing respect, she gained it. People didn't see her as weak. They saw her as a leader, not because she was perfect, but because she was honest. That's what responsibility does. It earns trust, it builds credibility, and more than anything, it gives you back your power. When you blame others or your circumstances, you hand that power away. But when you say, this is my life, my choices, my results, you take it back. And here's the part people forget. Taking responsibility isn't just about mistakes. It's also about claiming your wins. So many of us are quick to criticize ourselves when we mess up, but slow to acknowledge when we do something right. That's not humility. That's self-sabotage. Part of owning your life means recognizing your growth, your effort, and your victories. Not with arrogance, but with clarity and pride. So, how do you practice this Stoic strength in your everyday life? Start small. When you miss a deadline, don't cover it up. Acknowledge it. If you forget to respond to someone, reach out and apologize. Don't wait to be called out. Step forward. That habit repeated builds integrity, and integrity is the bedrock of inner peace. When you receive criticism, pause before defending yourself. Ask, is there truth in this? If there is, thank the person. Learn from it. Grow. If not, let it go. Either way, you stay in control. And most importantly, realize that life is going to present you with endless moments where you'll be tempted to blame, deflect, or avoid. But the strongest people, the Stoics, the leaders, the ones who truly grow, they choose the harder path, the path of full ownership. Epictetus put it perfectly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You can't always control the events in your life, but you can always control how you take responsibility for your part in them. When you do that consistently, you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. You realize that you have everything you need to rebuild, to evolve, to become better. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's a superpower. It means you're no longer a victim of circumstance. You're the author of your own story. And that story? It can become a masterpiece, not because it's perfect, but because you wrote it with courage, ownership, and truth. 3. Facing fear. Fear. It's one of the most universal emotions we experience as human beings, and one of the most misunderstood. Fear whispers in your ear before you take a risk. It fills your mind with worst-case scenarios, with what-ifs, with shame, doubt, and hesitation. It tells you to shrink, to stay silent, to keep your life small. But here's what the strongest among us know. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your teacher. We all feel it. The fear of failing, the fear of being judged, the fear of not being good enough, of stepping outside our comfort zone, of reaching for something that might hurt if we fall short. But courage, true, Stoic courage, doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you act in spite of fear, and every time you do, you grow. Think about a moment in your life when you were afraid to speak up, maybe in a room full of people, maybe in a conversation that really mattered. That lump in your throat, the racing heart, the panic that creeps in. But then you speak. Even if your voice trembles, you speak. That's strength. That's victory. Not because the fear disappeared, but because you didn't let it stop you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear often isn't about the situation, it's about your perception of the situation. Change the story you tell yourself and you change how fear affects you. I once knew a man who had the opportunity to speak at a large conference. He was terrified. Public speaking was his worst nightmare, but he prepared step by step and decided that even if he failed, he would rather face fear than be owned by it. That moment changed him, not because it went perfectly, but because he proved to himself that he could do hard things. That's what fear is, a mirror. It shows you where you have room to grow, and every time you lean into it, instead of away from it, you expand the boundaries of what's possible in your life. Seneca, the Stoic writer and advisor, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that. How many fears have you built up in your mind that never even came true? Fear exaggerates, it distorts, and yet we treat it like it's gospel. The Stoics teach us to prepare for difficulty, but not to be paralyzed by it, to anticipate it, to walk into it with clear eyes and steady hearts. So how do you practice facing fear in your daily life? Start with awareness. Notice the things you avoid, the conversations you keep putting off, the opportunities you turn down because, what if I'm not ready? Make a list if you have to, and then choose one, just one, and take a small intentional step toward it. Use your breath. When fear rises, breathe deeply, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Let your nervous system reset. Remind yourself that discomfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. Break the big scary thing into smaller steps. Don't aim for perfection, aim for movement. Even if it's imperfect, especially if it's imperfect, because every time you act in the face of fear, you strengthen the muscle of courage. And don't forget this. Your fear is often a signpost. It points directly to where your next breakthrough is. It shows you the edge of your comfort zone, and the only way to grow is to cross that line. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show men what they are." And it's true. You won't know how strong you are until you face the thing that scares you and rise anyway. Fear doesn't have to be a stop sign. It can be an invitation to step into your potential, to build the life you've been afraid to imagine, and to stop letting your past define your future. So the next time you feel fear creeping in, don't run from it. Look it in the eye, thank it for the lesson, and then move forward, one step at a time. Because on the other side of fear, that's where your strength lives. 4. Embracing solitude. There's a quiet kind of strength most people overlook. It doesn't come from crowds, praise, or popularity. It comes from something far deeper, the ability to be alone and to be at peace with it. In a world that moves fast and praises busyness, solitude is often misunderstood. It's mistaken for loneliness, for isolation, for being disconnected. But true solitude, the kind the Stoics embraced, is not a sign of emptiness. It's a sign of inner richness. It's the strength to sit with your own thoughts, to hear your own voice, and to face your inner world without distraction. Picture this: a quiet evening, no phone buzzing, no obligations, just you, in stillness. For some, that idea feels terrifying. For others, it's healing. Why? Because stillness doesn't just calm you, it confronts you. It shows you what's been buried beneath the noise. And that confrontation, it can lead to clarity, growth, and transformation. Epictetus said, "He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing." Solitude teaches you how to be satisfied with a little, with simplicity, with your own company. And in that space, you learn to rely on something no one else can give you, your own presence. Think about it. How often do you check your phone, open an app, distract yourself from the moment? We live in a time where silence is almost extinct. But the Stoics knew that silence is not something to run from, it's something to seek. Because it's in the silence that you meet your real self. I remember a friend who used to fill every waking hour with plans, calls, podcasts, music, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. Eventually, burnout hit. Life forced stillness on them. And at first it was hard, but over time they began to listen, to journal, to walk in nature without distraction, and slowly they started to feel grounded again. Not because they added more, but because they finally removed what was never helping in the first place. That's the secret of solitude. It doesn't just recharge you, it reveals you. It helps you distinguish between what's true and what's just noise, what's meaningful and what's simply habit. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." When you learn to retreat inward, to your thoughts, your values, your stillness, you build a kind of emotional armor, not a wall that shuts the world out, but a foundation that allows you to stand tall within it. So how do you begin to embrace solitude? Start by creating moments of stillness. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A short walk alone, a quiet morning without screens, journaling your thoughts before bed. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being self-connected. Next, notice what comes up when things go quiet. Are you avoiding a decision, an emotion, a truth about yourself? Solitude gives you the space to process, and in that space you find your answers, not from the world outside, but from the wisdom within. Solitude also builds resilience. When you can soothe yourself, validate yourself, and motivate yourself, you become unshakable. You no longer chase approval or panic in silence. You find peace not in people, but in your principles. And here's the beautiful part. Once you embrace solitude, your relationships also get better. Why? Because you're no longer seeking others to complete you. You're connecting with them from a place of wholeness. So don't fear time alone. Welcome it. Let it become your sanctuary, your mirror, your training ground for strength. The Stoics didn't retreat from life. They prepared for it. And solitude was their secret weapon. Because in solitude, you don't lose yourself. You meet yourself. 5. Staying positive in adversity. Life doesn't always knock politely. Sometimes it storms in, unexpected, uninvited, and unrelenting. A job you counted on disappears, a relationship ends, a diagnosis arrives. A dream you nurtured suddenly falls apart. And in those moments, it's so easy to give in to despair, to say, why me? To focus on everything that's gone wrong and lose sight of what's still right. But this is where a quiet, extraordinary strength reveals itself, the ability to stay positive in the face of adversity. And I want to be clear, this isn't about toxic positivity. Stoicism isn't about denying pain or putting on a fake smile. It's not about pretending your struggle isn't real. It's about developing the courage to face reality as it is, and then choosing your response with intention and wisdom. Stoicism teaches that adversity doesn't destroy us. It reveals us. It strips away what's superficial and brings to the surface what truly matters: our character, our values, our resilience. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just philosophy. That's a map for how to turn suffering into strength. Let me share something personal. I once watched someone I deeply admire lose everything they'd worked for: business, home, relationships, all within a single year. It was brutal. There were moments when it looked like they'd never recover, but every day they made one small choice: to wake up and keep going. Some days they cried, other days they fought. But they never stopped showing up for themselves. And slowly, through the rubble, something new began to grow. Not just a rebuilt life, but a more powerful version of themselves. One rooted not in external success, but in inner peace. That's what staying positive in adversity does. It rewires your perspective. It teaches you that no storm lasts forever. And even when it does, you can learn to dance in the rain. So how do you stay positive when everything feels like it's falling apart? First, you must change what positivity means to you. It's not blind optimism. It's not saying everything's fine. It's saying this is hard, but I will find meaning inside of it. That mindset doesn't erase pain. It transforms it. Instead of being a victim of life's blows, you become an active participant in your healing. Gratitude becomes your anchor. Not in the cliché sense of just be thankful, but in the powerful recognition that even in loss, there are things worth holding on to. A friend who checks in, a breath in your lungs, a chance to try again. When you start to look for what still remains, you stop fixating on what's gone. You begin to build from where you are. Next is acceptance, not defeat. Acceptance is power. Epictetus said, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do." Why? Because acceptance puts you back in control. When you accept what is, you stop wasting energy resisting life, and start directing that energy toward creating a better response. Then comes presence. Most of our suffering is amplified by dwelling on the past or fearing the future. But the Stoics taught that the present moment is all we ever truly possess. Right here, right now, you are breathing, you are surviving, and you are capable. Anchor yourself in the now. Look at what's in front of you. Take action from this moment, not from the fear of what might be. Another critical aspect of staying positive is recognizing that adversity has value. It refines you. It strengthens your endurance. It sharpens your focus. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The pain you're experiencing may not be your fault, but how you grow from it is your responsibility. And growth doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes staying positive means simply refusing to give up. Taking a shower when you didn't feel like it. Getting out of bed. Reaching out for help. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for, even if you had to dig deep to find them. These small choices, these acts of defiance against despair, are how resilience is built. And let's not forget your environment. Surround yourself with people who don't just sympathize, but who elevate. People who remind you who you are when you've forgotten. Books, voices, videos, words that speak strength into your soul. You become what you consume, especially when you're vulnerable. Choose wisely. Lastly, remember this. Your adversity is part of your training. It's molding you for something greater. You are being shaped by fire, not to burn, but to be forged. And one day you will look back and realize that it was during your darkest times that your greatest strength was born. So when everything around you feels uncertain, become the calm. When life tries to break you, bend but don't shatter. Stay rooted, stay focused, stay hopeful, because staying positive in adversity isn't weakness, it's warrior work. And when the storm clears, and it will, you'll stand taller, not because you escaped the pain, but because you walked through it and became someone stronger on the other side. 6. Setting boundaries. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't demand attention or win applause, but it's one of the most powerful and self-respecting acts you can make. The ability to set boundaries. In a world that constantly pulls at your time, your energy, and your attention, boundaries aren't selfish. They are sacred. They are the invisible lines that protect your peace, preserve your purpose, and honor your worth. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, overcommitment and being available all the time. If you say no, you risk being seen as cold. If you take time for yourself, you might feel guilty. But here's the truth the Stoics understood well: you cannot be strong for others until you're first strong within yourself. Epictetus once said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." That's not just about identity, it's about alignment. Knowing who you are means knowing what you value, what drains you, what restores you, and most importantly, what you will and will not allow in your life. Let me tell you about someone I once knew. A high-performing professional, respected, reliable, and endlessly giving. She said yes to every request, took every call, stayed late, worked weekends, bent over backward for clients, friends, even strangers. But beneath the surface, she was crumbling, exhausted, bitter, lost in a cycle of resentment she didn't know how to escape. Until one day she paused, she reevaluated, and she made a decision that changed her life. She started saying no. Not with anger, with clarity, with kindness. She blocked off personal time. She turned down projects that didn't align with her values. She told others what she needed and didn't apologize for it. And something incredible happened. The people who truly respected her began to respect her even more. She wasn't less available. She was more whole. That's the power of boundaries. They don't build walls. They build bridges to a better version of yourself and to deeper, more authentic relationships. So how do you begin to set boundaries without guilt or fear? Start by identifying your energy leaks. What in your life consistently leaves you drained? Is it a particular person, a recurring task, an expectation you've outgrown? Clarity is the first step. Because once you see what's stealing your peace, you can begin to guard it. Next, communicate clearly and compassionately. You don't need to justify your boundaries to everyone. You simply need to state them with firmness and grace. I'm not available this weekend. I need some time to recharge. I can't take that on right now. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often the birthplace of growth. And be prepared. When you start setting boundaries, not everyone will like it. Some will push back. Some will guilt you. But that's not a reflection of your failure. It's a sign that the boundary is necessary. Those who truly value you will learn to value your limits. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's the essence of living with boundaries, aligning your actions and words with your values, not out of stubbornness, but out of self-respect. Boundaries also bring freedom. When you protect your time, you create space for what really matters, your goals, your rest, your relationships. You stop running on empty and start living from overflow. You move from surviving to thriving. And here's something we rarely talk about: boundaries with yourself. Setting limits isn't just about others, it's about the promises you make to yourself and keep. Limiting your screen time, guarding your mornings, saying no to that self-critical voice in your head, holding yourself accountable to your own standards. That's where real growth begins. The Stoics believed in self-discipline not as punishment, but as liberation. Boundaries give you that same freedom. They help you live with intention instead of reaction, purpose instead of pressure. So don't be afraid to protect your peace. Don't be afraid to choose rest over burnout, to choose alignment over approval. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're the framework for a life of clarity, energy, and integrity. And once you set them, not just once, but consistently, you begin to attract a different kind of life, one that respects who you are, what you give, and where you're going. That's not just a boundary, it's a breakthrough. 7. Lifting others up. There's a certain kind of strength that transcends personal achievement. A deeper strength that doesn't just carry your own burdens, but also reaches out and lightens the load for someone else. Lifting others up is not just a sign of true strength, it's the highest expression of it. It's easy to focus inward when life is tough, to put our heads down, guard our energy, and move through our own challenges, and that's understandable. But there's something extraordinary that happens when you take your pain, your wisdom, your resilience, and use it to elevate the people around you. The Stoics understood this deeply. We are not meant to live in isolation. We are part of a greater whole, a community, a society. And our greatest strength is often found in connection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. It's a powerful reminder that when we contribute to the well-being of others, we don't lose something. We gain. We gain meaning. We gain purpose. We gain relationships that are rooted in respect, compassion, and mutual strength. Think about the people who've impacted your life the most. Maybe it was a teacher who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. Maybe a mentor who challenged you, or a friend who stood by you in silence during your darkest moments. Their presence, their encouragement, their belief, it became a turning point, a spark, and you never forgot it. That's the power of lifting others. Small acts, quiet words, simple gestures. These things can change someone's entire trajectory. And the beauty is, you don't have to be perfect to lift someone up. You just have to be present, intentional, compassionate. I remember working on a team project where one of my colleagues, brilliant, capable, and driven, was clearly struggling. Deadlines slipped. Confidence wavered. It would have been easy to criticize or distance myself. But instead I sat with them, asked questions, broke the challenge into steps, shared tools and encouragement, not because I had all the answers, but because I remembered what it felt like to be overwhelmed and alone. And together, we not only completed the project, we built a connection that lasted far beyond that one task. That moment reminded me, when you lift others, you rise with them. Stoic strength is not about dominance, it's about service. It's about recognizing that your resilience was never meant to end with you, it was meant to overflow, to spill into others' lives as a source of light, of grounding, of hope. So, how do we live this out? Start by listening, genuinely. When someone shares their struggle, don't rush to fix. Just hear them. Presence alone can be healing. Celebrate others without envy. When someone wins, let their victory inspire you, not threaten you. True strength has no room for comparison. It lifts without needing to shine brighter. Share your wisdom. If you've walked through something hard, pass on what you've learned, not as a lecture, but as a bridge. Let someone else's journey be a little smoother because you offered guidance. And perhaps most powerfully, believe in people. Remind them of who they are, especially when they've forgotten. That belief, that vote of confidence, it might be the only light they see in that moment. Epictetus wrote, "Be helpful to others. Help whoever you can, for you may find yourself in need of help one day." It's a reminder that strength isn't static. Life moves in seasons, and the support you give today might return to you in the hour you need it most. To lift others doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself. It means you extend yourself. You choose kindness in a world that often teaches cruelty. You choose patience when judgment would be easier. You choose compassion not because you have to, but because you understand its power. And here's what's truly beautiful. When you start lifting others, the energy in your life begins to shift. Your relationships deepen. Your community strengthens. Your purpose expands. And you begin to see your own strength in a new light, not just as something you've built for yourself, but something that builds others too. Because in the end, real greatness is not measured by how high you climb, but by how many people you bring with you. So here we are, at the end of this journey, but maybe it's also the beginning of something far more meaningful, a journey inward toward your own strength. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered together, because strength, real strength, is not something you're simply born with. It's something you build, slowly, intentionally, moment by moment. You build it when you master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. You build it when you take responsibility instead of blaming others. You build it when you face fear instead of running from it. You build it when you embrace solitude instead of fearing the silence. You build it when you stay positive in adversity instead of collapsing into despair. You build it when you set boundaries instead of stretching yourself thin for everyone else. And you build it most beautifully when you lift others up, even when you're still rising yourself. This is the kind of strength the Stoics lived by. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it was enduring. It didn't rely on power over others, it focused on power over the self. And that is what made it unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they didn't promise a life free of struggle. They didn't teach that wisdom would erase hardship. They taught something far more important, that the storms will come, but you don't have to be swept away by them. You can stand steady, grounded, clear, and calm. You can choose your response, shape your mindset, and build a life of depth, clarity, and purpose, even in a chaotic world. And that is what I want you to remember. You are stronger than you think. Even on the days you feel weak, even when everything around you feels uncertain, you don't need to wait to feel ready. You just need to begin. Start small. Start where you are. Begin by pausing before reacting. Begin by saying no to something that drains you. Begin by speaking encouragement to someone who's forgotten their worth. These acts may seem small, but they're the bricks that build a foundation no storm can shake. Practice these lessons daily. Not perfectly, but consistently. When you stumble, reflect. When you fall, rise. When you feel lost, return to the principles we've explored today. These aren't just tools for survival, they're keys to resilience, to fulfillment, to freedom. And now I want to hear from you. What has been your greatest challenge, and how did you find the strength to keep going? Or maybe you're in that challenge right now, facing adversity, fear, or emotional overwhelm. If so, how can you begin applying these Stoic lessons in your life today? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your story. Let this be more than just a video. Let it be a conversation, a place where we build strength together. Because when we practice these principles, we don't just improve our own lives, we become the kind of people who strengthen the world around us. Thank you for watching, thank you for showing up, and never forget, your greatest strength is already within you. Now go live it.